You know how the story originally broke? The Packers podcaster named Big B.
Shut up, Big B.
Jamal Williams is inside the 30, out in front, a Green Bay touchdown.
Jamal Williams is the GOAT, the GOAT. That's all you need to know.
Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans. Welcome into the Underage Packers podcast. This is episode 159. The Green Bay Packers are set to take on the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs after thrashing the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, ruining a perfect streak for Dallas for 16 straight games at home. Oh, buddy, the excitement is reaching all-time levels here. It's been a while since I've felt this hype for Green Bay Packers football. Big B, I'm sure you share my excitement. How are we feeling?
We are so hyped for this game. I am so ready. I am so ready to watch the Green Bay Packers play football again. I am just craving it. It is like I just need it. It's like a bad drug.
Yes.
But a good drug. All right. And I just
Yeah.
can't wait. I don't know if there is a thing even considered a good drug, but this Packers team is a good drug.
I would say it's just like a very sweet candy.
Yes.
That it's very addictive. And this candy, well, I was gonna say it has no like health. It's not bad to your health at all, but it definitely is. When you get in close games like this, I mean, this can definitely lead to a heart attack. So you got to watch out. You can't get too excited for this Packers team, but it is definitely a very fun team to watch. And so to preview this game against San Francisco 49ers, we had one of my favorite people on Packers Twitter, Dusty Evely, to help us break down this matchup and really just the growth that this Packers team has experienced throughout this season. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to throw it to our chat with Dusty Evely. All right. Well, as the two smartest minds in football are going to be dueling it out on the football field this week, and we decided we might as well have one of the smartest football people on the internet join us this week. Dusty Evely, thank you so much for joining us to talk Packers Niners.
I'm thrilled, dude. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you guys. This week has all been about how much can we talk about the Packers this week off of that insane win last week. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, exactly. I mean, every more week we have to talk about the 2023 Packers, where it means something is another blessing every opportunity we get. So hopefully we have more of that to come. But I first just wanted to hit on kind of looking at this season holistically, because, a lot of people have been talking about just the insane turnaround this team has gone through throughout this season. And it obviously all starts with Jordan Love from going to, in the middle of the season, I would say he was showing flashes, but it really didn't look like he was going to be able to do it consistently enough to be a franchise quarterback. And that was my main question on him. And I think that was a lot of people's questions on him that weren't on, besides the Rodgers stands that believed Love could never be good. But, in college, he always had the playmaking potential, but he had a lot of interceptions. So there was questions about him. And I mean, by week 8 of the season, we were, getting ready to look at mock drafts for Caleb Williams or Drake May. And now he is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. His performance against Dallas was the top quarterback performance by EPA all this season. So, I mean, Dusty, you've been watching Packers film all this season for many years, of course. I mean, just what have you seen from Jordan and kind of the growth he's had this year?
It's been really impressive. I mean, a lot of it, I think when I think of kind of where he was versus where he is now, so much of it I think can tie back to his belief in the other guys. I mean, there was so much like early in the season, and I don't want to boil it down to all that, but like even some of the deep ball stuff, you watch him, he will still do it occasionally, but he has like those extra hitches, right? Like he's ready to throw, then he takes that extra hitch and he steps back and then he lets it loose, and maybe he's a little late on it. And some of the overthrow, underthrow, whatever, early in the season, that was my big thing with him, was like the intermediate accuracy was fine. The deep ball accuracy was atrocious. And some of that was just, I don't think he knew where his guys were going to be. You watch some of those. I mean, last year was real bad in terms of guys running into each other, which was insane because it was vets. This year, it wasn't so much guys running into each other. It was guys like not being where they're supposed to be. It was either an option route and they broke the wrong way. That was relatively rare. Some of it was there was at least a couple. There's actually one just a couple weeks ago where a guy didn't get the check at the line and it's an RPO and Jordan Love goes to throw and there's all three guys blocking and there's no one there for the receiving. He's like, well, crap, now I got to do something with this. You're looking for an in route and the guy breaks out. Like all of those little things where I think early in the year, he was letting it rip and the accuracy was not great because those balls are falling incomplete and they look bad. You guys weren't there. And then we got to the middle part of the season. He didn't believe those guys were going to be there. So he started those extra hitches. So you'd have like the delay. And now instead of throwing with anticipation, throwing in those open windows, he's waiting to make sure that guy's going to be there. And then by the time he throws, he's late. And so anytime you do that with those concepts where they usually what the Packers do a lot of times it's 3-step to one side, 5-step to the other side. If he's going 3-step and he's laid on that 3-step because he's not sure if that guy is breaking on a slant or if he's going to flatten that out or whatever. Well, now the timing's done. That's both on the even if you end up throwing the 3-step, it's 3-step hitch instead of 3-step throw. Well, if it's not there, now you're moving back to the 5-step and that sucker's already in progress. And now he's waiting again to see if that guy's going to be open. So, I mean, someone asked me earlier this week, I think about footwork or something. I think the foot. It's funny because I mean the footwork is the footwork. You're not going to teach guys to do that stuff like throwing off your back foot with no feet on the ground, fading away like 30 yards down the field. Like, don't tell anyone to do that. But so much of the footwork stuff early, I think, really was just I got to make sure this guy's where he's going to be because there wasn't trust. And now the trust is there. Guys are getting better. Guys are where they're supposed to be, even if they're not. On the rare occasion, they're not at this point. He's letting it rip. So I think a lot of it is. I think it's less anything mechanical with him and more just him trusting his guys are going to be where they're going to be and letting it rip. And those guys have been there. Occasionally they'll drop a ball, but for the most part, the guys where they're supposed to be. And that's just that middle part of the season. Like I think he got burned early in that middle part. You could see who he was questioning everything around him. That just screwed everything up.
But yeah, that's interesting because I really completely forgot about how bad the deep ball accuracy was. And I remember even like Peter Prokowski had a tweet at one point of like, if unless Jordan fixes this, like, you can't win with him. And that was a very valid take at the time because it was so
those guys wide open. He's missing by 10 yards.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a lot of them were not close at all. It was insane.
And I think we kind of forgot. We're not necessarily forgot, but we really saw, the growing pains were definitely painful. And, we had to go through the trouble of, it's not even like his guys were young and just didn't have playing time or like were third or fourth year players that were able to have banked reps with Jordan over these past 3 years. Jordan has had all that time in practice, but most of his wide receivers are brand new. And even last year, I'm not sure how many reps he was able to get with Dobbs or Watson because they were mostly on the first team. So it has been interesting and very exciting, really, to watch him kind of establish that connection with receivers. And then what you mentioned about footwork too, and how incredible his off-balance stuff is. It's just really fun to watch.
It is. I think even like if you look at I say footwork, like his footwork's clean in the pocket, like during his drops like that. And that's something that was even go back to the Eagles game last year, right? Like his footwork was good. If you're looking at pure footwork, going through the progression, tying feet to the reads, that was something. If you look at the Kansas City game versus the Eagles game, between those 2 different years, night and day different, like huge difference. Yeah. And so I don't mean to imply that footwork's bad. That footwork's clean. It's just when he's throwing, guys can't do that. A lot of guys cannot do that.
Yes. Yeah. I would love to sit in a room and have Tom Clements break down Jordan Love's film for me because I feel like there's a lot of stuff too. I know you mentioned, Dusty, of, it's not necessarily mechanical that Jordan has improved on. But I would be interested because I feel like there's got to be a lot of work that Tom Clements was able to do with him throughout these past 2 years. Just as as far as improving things and making a night and day difference. And because I know like Ross Uglum in his apology video about being wrong about Jordan Love, he mentioned that, seeing Jordan Love and then also Josh Allen, see how their careers has progressed has kind of changed the way that he views and evaluates quarterbacks because both of them struggled with accuracy in college and then also early on in their pro careers. And they were able to turn those around. And it's not, maybe accuracy isn't this thing of you have it or you don't, that
Yeah.
we always thought it was.
Well, yeah, and there used to be a rule that was if you were under 60% accuracy in college, you would not turn into a good pro. I remember that was the big thing with like Jake Locker. If you guys remember when Jake Locker came out, his completion percent in college was like 45%. Like it was like absurdly low. And I do think there are steps, and some of that's, I think some of that system, I'm with Ross. I'm trying to break myself with that too. If you look at what Love was running in college, I swear to God, every other play was four verts, which is just you're going. It was total air raid. It was a terrible system, especially that senior year. And it was all just there's no timing. You drop back because it's all option route based. Where do those guys break? Are we on the same page? You got to look to see what the defense is doing, and then you throw. It's not throwing to windows. It's so talking about Clements, like that footwork, that entire system did need to be redone in the same way that that they had to do for Rodgers when he came in from Jeff Tedford. Like you look at where they were in college versus where they are now. Yeah, it's insane what they've done, but I'm with you. I think if you sit down with Tom Clements and be like, well, here's this tiny little thing that made a huge difference.
Yes,
I would love that.
absolutely. Tom Clements, when is the Substack coming out?
Please and thank you.
Yeah. It will be interesting, and it already is interesting to kind of see how the national narrative on the Packers draft process has changed now that Jordan Love is good, and specifically with quarterbacks, because now everybody is once again praising the Packers for being able to find these quarterbacks out of nowhere. And I mean, the Packers didn't draft Favre, obviously, but Ron Wolf was a big fan of him coming out of the draft. And the Favre was a different situation than Rodgers and Love, but just the idea of taking a raw prospect and believing in your coaching staff to turn him into something special, a special player in the NFL. And that's not only the Packers' approach to drafting quarterbacks, but then also all of their positions, drafting just a raw athlete. Production obviously plays some part in your evaluation, but it's much more about potential and what you can turn the player into.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I mean it is it's 24/7 news cycle, right? You gotta have something to talk about, while at the same time, like everyone agrees 3 years. You need 3 years to say whether a draft pick or a draft class is good or not. And suddenly it's, oh, how the Packers do this, because it's what you're supposed to do. It's just no one's taking the long view when they talk about these things. It is, I do hope that conversation changes.
Absolutely. Okay, I did want to talk about the offense as a whole too, because I mean they're, especially in the receiving core, their growth has just been just as exciting in Jordan Love's, and really has shown over these past few weeks in the Packers playoff push here. I mean, I kind of just want to go round table here and talk about kind of some of the things outside of Jordan. Dusty, you mentioned some of the things that were directly affecting Jordan, but then some of the things outside of him that were also just really holding this offense back. I mean, you look at some of the injuries they were facing, they were without Aaron Jones for a majority of the season, really. And, the whole idea going into the season was, this Packers offense can probably still be good, no matter how young they are, just with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones can open up so much for them. And then he's out for most of the season. You don't have Christian Watson in there for a good part of the year, too. Especially early on, as this wide receiver group is trying to, get its feet on the ground. And we saw, I mean, just look at the Dallas game and the Chiefs game as well for how much he does for this offense. They did have some rough injuries, and you have David Bakhtiari going down for the year, and you're forced to throw out Rasheed Walker. So I mean, I'll start with you, Big B. I mean, just kind of your impressions of the Packers offense midway through the season, and in hindsight, really, what were some of the things you think were holding them back there?
Yeah, what I think the main thing that was really holding the Packers offense back was just how bad the offensive line was, because they were not great in the beginning of the season, and I think that really had Matt kind of buckle it up a bit and go a little vanilla offensively. Like they couldn't do what they really wanted to do because of how bad the offensive line was playing. And I think that just completely derailed the offense, and especially on the 4-game 4-game losing streak. Like, I feel like they forgot how to win, and once they won versus the Chargers, they remembered how to win again, and then that's when they went on their little streak that they're going on right now. But I think it all just stemmed from the offensive line mainly being just terrible in the beginning of the season.
Yes, and what you mentioned there about kind of Matt being a little bit more conservative in the play calling, I think was definitely noticeable. And the offensive line definitely affected that. And it almost made me frustrated because to me, it's like, okay, this team is not playing good right now. So I understand, you're not going to be as aggressive. But also, I mean, this year is for just to see what talent you have out of this young group of guys. So to me, the thought process should have been always, let's act like we are playing with the 2011 Packers offense, air it out and see what we have. And I mean, Dusty, do you think my impression that LaFleur was being a lot more conservative in the middle of the season, is that correct?
Yeah, no, that honestly, that was something at the time I was really curious about. So they came out against the Bears in week 1 ripping. Like LaFleur was all kinds of different formations, all kinds of different looks. They ran Leak to Musgrave where he didn't stay on his feet in that one. They had a running back, kind of like a throwback off of that boot action that went to Aaron Jones for 55 yards. Dude was in his bag like that entire game. And then as the season went on, to Big B's point, some of that was offensive line. They couldn't run the ball. Even that, one of my favorite / least favorite stats of the year was in that Bears game. They had, I mean, Jones had a great game, but there wasn't a ton of it on the ground. I think he had one big run and a lot of it was receiving. 80 yards on the ground, something like that. 1 yard before contact in that game. Like even when they were running, they were making it all happen after contact. It was all, there was no push from the offensive line whatsoever. And I think that informed some stuff, as well as guys running wrong routes and like all of that stuff. And so they hit that losing streak, and it was a lot of it was the offense was non-functional. They looked good at times, but guys weren't where they're supposed to be. They were missing blocks. They couldn't they couldn't run, and then the receivers couldn't run block really, and so they couldn't get any explosives from the run game. And so it was almost like, at the time, my theory was, okay, he's stripping this back because they got to relearn the playbook. Basically, there was like no variations. They went super RPO heavy because if you want to stay on track of the run game and your wide receivers can't block, then they need to do something. And so they're running those little bubbles just to distract from the outside. So the RPO usage went way up in terms of that stuff. But it was all the pre-snap stuff, all the horizontal behind the line, just to keep those guys occupied. And they simplified it. It's almost like mid-season they stored that they pulled it down to its studs. And they're like, okay, here's the basics of our offense. We don't have enough time in practice. We're in the middle of the season. Get the core stuff down now. And then once they started doing that, they started opening back up again. So during that stretch, that was my hopeful theory was, I think they're doing this because these guys need to learn like basic route concepts. They need to learn like where to be on this block. You could even see Tucker Kraft in those. What he's doing now is insane. You watch him early on, he's supposed to do like a split zone action, and then he's supposed to take the end. And if the end goes wide, he's supposed to pull inside, and he's supposed to take a linebacker. The end would go wide, and he would just stop. You could see him thinking like, what do I do? Like, I'm block him, but then what happens if I don't block him? And so they tore all that down and just made it as simple as possible. And then once those guys got the basics, we saw him open it back up again. And so that was a rough stretch, but I think that was huge for this team to be able to say, all right, dude, we got to get the basics somehow. We got to be really predictable for a little bit. And so I think that's a very astute observation based on what I saw, because it does seem that's exactly, I think the motion has been the same regardless, but what they've been running, the constraint plays they're running off their core plays, they just weren't there in the middle of the season. Now they're opening all that back up again, and they're all on the same page. It's been really cool to see.
Yeah, what you mentioned about basically middle of the season, or really, I guess you look at the Falcons loss where the Falcons was week 2. What was week 4 after the Saints comeback win?
Oh man, was that the Raiders? Was that Raiders then Broncos on the other side? That was 5 and 7 maybe.
I think you're right. Yeah, that stretch there, because even like, I mean, even the week 3 win against Saints, it took a 20-point comeback of Jordan putting the team on his back. Offense was clearly struggling, and then what you mentioned of Matt just kind of stripping the playbook back, getting down to the basics. It reminds me of like in 6th grade, my math teacher. She was a very like a strict teacher, but a very good lady, and she was a very good teacher. There was one test we had on slope. We spent like a month trying to learn slope, and none of us could get it. And then like she came in the day after we took the test, and I guess we all got like 10%. And she was like, "This was like the nicest I've ever seen this later." Like, okay, I have made some mistakes. I need to teach this better. And she took us step by step. And man, we got some good grades on that next slope test, I tell you. So that is my analogy for the evolution of the Packers offense of playbook this season. And speaking about that, Dusty, now that this team has their ducks in a row on offense, know what they were doing. I mean, Matt has just been able to be much more freer, much more aggressive. Some of the concepts they've run, especially in this Dallas game, have just been really interesting to watch. Really getting to see, I think, kind of some of the stuff that maybe in past years he wasn't able to run, whether that was because of Aaron Rodgers or because of just a lack of skilled players that he had, especially in last season. This is the first year where he's really able to run that stuff. I mean, can you just talk to us a little bit about the current form of the Packers offense, how it's different from the past, not only in past years, but also just from that midseason point we were just talking about?
Yeah, there's one concept in specific I've absolutely loved seeing, because that's something they couldn't have done. I've been for years. It's been they need more speed in this offense. They need more speed in this offense. Now they have speed, and it's like, oh, look at this cool stuff they can do. There's a concept that they run. There's 1,000 variations of it, but it's everyone will run. It's called Dagger. And the core concept is it's a 2-man concept. Inside man runs like a go or through route, and the guy behind him will run just a dig route. Like in old like Bill Walsh West Coast stuff, you'll just see straight line going up, line behind him breaking at 15 yards straight across, and like a straight dig square and whatever. And they'll also run the versions cross country where they'll have the inside guy kind of run like a deep over route to clear out the middle, and then you got the dig behind him. It's always the same. You got the dig behind him, and you usually run that fairly static. In the past, the Packers have always run that static because you need that timing, right? Like you've got the clear out. The whole idea is you got the clear out to clear out the middle, which means you got to run that dig behind it before those guys can recover, before everyone recovers, and you hit the back of a 7-step drop, if I'm not mistaken. That's all static. That's guys. It's that twin set. This year they're running that off of motion. They got a jet motion guy behind. They're running Reed, Wicks, and Watson off of motion on that, running the dig. So they're going jet from left to right. They're running the inside man on that is still then running that clear out route, and they're running a dig off the motion. They're snapping it while he's in motion, so he's pushing out. You're pushing that defender out, and you're still got the timing because you got the speed and athleticism to do that. Like the stuff like that. If you think of like Alan Lazard trying to do that, like that's a 15-step drop if you want Alan Lazard to do something like that. No offense to Alan Lazard. I apologize, Alan Lazard. But it's stuff like that. I mean, and some of the stuff with tight ends has been really fun. That's something I think LaFleur's been wanting to do forever, has been like the 2 tight end sets. They're even doing it this year with Ben Sims, who's done perfectly fine after Musgrave went down. But with Kraft being an absolute dog as in the run game now, is like the guy, I think he's like a bigger version of who he wanted Aguara to be. So the tight end stuff is fun, but really it's just a lot of that, the stuff you can do with motion speed and running those concepts off of motion, and also run that run game stuff off of that as well. They just didn't have that ability before. Now they're able to do that while keeping in rhythm with the offense. Like to me, that's been like that concept specifically is the biggest thing in terms of like, here's what they can do. This is a core passing concept. They'll run this 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes they'll run it red zone. They'll run cross country dagger twice a week. If sometimes they'll run that entire concept 8 times in a game. It's a core part of their game, and they can dress that up. You can run it static. You can run it off motion. You kind of saw the that Wicks touchdown. They did it as well, and that was Reed motioning in, and then Reed was the crosser and Wicks was the guy behind it. Same general idea. So now you have more ways to run your core concepts while threatening with speed. It's very exciting time, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, first off, on the dagger concept that you mentioned, that was they hit Dobbs on that twice in that Cowboys game, where he's just screaming wide open over the middle. And I know in the QB school, JT O'Sullivan broke that play down. And I mean, just with you were talking about the importance of speed, not only with having the motion be an actual threat, but then also having the guys on that dagger concept where they're running a go, you know, the defense has to respect that much more with Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed than you would with Alan Lazard, like you mentioned.
They used to run that same stuff to Geronimo Allison. They used to run jet sweeps to Geronimo Allison. It's like, well, now we've got 5 guys that can do it better than him. It's incredible.
Oh man, I have not thought about Geronimo Allison in quite a long time.
You're welcome.
The 12 personnel stuff too has also been really exciting to watch, and I'm really excited too because I know Musgrave was pretty much at 100% for this Cowboys game, but obviously, you know, when the first game back was Chicago, had a little bit of playing time there, and we really just started to see the surface of the exciting craft Musgrave dual sets here in that Cowboys game, and that might be a little bit of a secret weapon possibly in this 49ers game. Not a lot of it on film. Speaking of this 49ers game, one last question for you, Dusty. I love this just the Shanahan tree. I know it's like the most basic thing to love in the NFL right now. But I just love, you know, I read I know you've recommended Doug Farrar's Genius of Desperation book before, and I wish he would come out with a new edition now too, because if I recall, his near the last few things he kind of touches on is basically Alex Gibbs and wide zone blocking in Denver in the 90s. And then that obviously connects to the whole Shanahan tree because where Mike was obviously, and I was doing like research into like this whole Shanahan tree yesterday and just more so about the people within it. And it's like, man, they like these families at least having like connected to the 90s in some ways. Like even McVay's father was an executive with the Niners when Mike Shanahan was there. So I'm sure that's how Sean started off with that job. And obviously now there's the famous graphics of, you know, the 2013 Washington staff where you have just a buttload of guys who are either head coaches now or soon to be, like Bobby Slowick. So it is really fun just to see like the evolution of the staff, and then also the differences that they have kind of developed now on their own. And I listened. Peter Schrager had Mike LaFleur, the Rams offense coordinator, and obviously Matt LaFleur's brother, on his podcast yesterday, and he had some really interesting conversations just about kind of the differences between Kyle, Matt, Sean, Mike, what all they run, and a lot of it obviously depends on personnel and the new wrinkles they are able to add to that. So long story short, Dusty, I just want to hear kind of your thoughts on basically the stemming roots of the Shanahan system, and then kind of where the Packers and the 49ers differentiate.
Yeah, I mean, it has been fun kind of seeing all those guys put their own stamp on it, right? Because even when LaFleur got hired, he was under McVay, I guess, most recently, because he called plays 1 year in Tennessee, but then he kind of came up. He was the OC with McVay and Rams during those early McVay Rams years. And at that time, McVay was, and I think he was this year again as well, like 99% 11 personnel. Like just everything was run out of 11, and that's what LaFleur is going to want to do, right? He's going to do that, but he really hews a little closer to Shanahan. And you see what McDaniel's doing. I think is Gary Kubiak's kid somewhere? Isn't Clint Kubiak?
Yes.
Somewhere.
I think he got interviewed for an OC job the other day.
Okay. Yeah, I knew he was. I can remember where he was. But yeah, I mean, it's a whole lot of that wide zone stuff. It's all wide zone and then the boot off of that. But seeing the iterations of that has been really, really cool. Seeing the motion stuff off of that. Now seeing, and this is something LaFleur started doing last year, with the kind of the escort motion. I think Ollie Connolly calls it the escort motion, which is motioning a tight end to act as a puller, because LaFleur really wants to get into. And that's kind of where the evolution of some of the stuff has gone, right? It was like total wide zone. I mean, I grew up watching those whatever early 2000s, late 90s Denver Broncos teams. Olandis Gary going for 1,000 yards. Anyone was going for 1,000 yards if you could make a single cutback lane, and that was the whole thing. It's all wide zone. It's all boot stuff off of that, and that was the Shanahan stuff. And now it's kind of come back to early to mid 80s run game stuff where it's all pullers. You're keeping a lot of that wide zone stuff, but you want to pull because you want to get extra guys at the point of attack. I think San Francisco's dialed that back a little bit this year, but LaFleur really wanted to get into that. LaFleur, I think of all these guys, I think skews closer to Shanahan in that he really wants to do the run. I think McDaniels wants to do fun, cool things with motion and fast men, which, who among us doesn't want to do that? Shanahan, if he could, and we've seen him do it, would run 80 times in a game. If he could only pass 8 times in a game, in a playoff game, for example, and win that playoff game, he would do that. We've seen him do that. I think LaFleur's got some of that in him. Will also want to pass, but I think Shanahan, what he wants to do more than anything is show you how cool he is by beating you with the run. That's what he wants to do. And LaFleur's got some of that in him as well. And there's things he wants to get to in the creative ways he's got to there has been good, but he also has some of the McVay in him. I know he will skew more towards 11 personnel than Shanahan. I am curious how much that changes with the healthy and good Kraft and Musgrave, because Kraft wasn't good early in the year, if he leans more into that. But I think LaFleur is a passing guy at heart that runs because he knows he has to. And if I have to do it, I might as well make it look good. But just how far we've come from some of that in terms of the boots off of that, the play action sales stuff off of that. Then teams started picking up on that in terms of you blitz down the back end, and now teams are leaving a tight end backside to block. Like, they're still trying to keep these core concepts alive as much as humanly possible while adding things in there, both to mess with the eyes of the linebackers and add power at the point of attack. It's been very, very cool seeing how all of these guys from that same tree have done different things while still trying to do a lot of the same things, but in different ways. I don't know if
Yes.
that answered a single one of your questions.
No, I definitely did a lot of great information in there. And I think my favorite part about it is just the differentiating stuff they run not only depends on personnel they have, but also, I mean, just like their personalities. I mean, none of these guys are like big characters, but they are definitely distinguishable characters as far as their personalities go. What you mentioned about, Shane, Kyle just wanting to like prove how cool he is by running down your throat all the time. And then, I mean, like, I think the best example would be Mike McDaniel. I mean, he is just a very goofy guy, and he does a lot of very goofy stuff in his offense. So it's definitely a fun phenomenon to watch going on in the NFL, and will be interesting to see kind of how long this can go on for. I'm not questioning the longevity of this necessarily, but I mean, it just seems like we've they've taken a lot of steps from kind of the 2018-19 era, where it was, okay, anybody who has ever shook hands with Sean McVay, we should interview him for head coaching jobs. And now it really has become an interesting, like, anybody who has ever been in the system is somewhere doing some good things in the NFL. So exciting stuff to watch, and should be.
I will say it's funny because I always forget that Zach Taylor was also a part of this. But his offense is just whatever Joe Burrow wants to do. It's just spread college stuff is all Zach Taylor does. He's like, whatever you want, Joe. There's like no system there. It's hysterical.
Oh man, I completely forgot about Zach Taylor too. And then he
was like QB coach, right? I think he was QB coach. That was OC
I think
for
with the Rams.
1 year. Yeah. It's very funny.
Yeah, the Rams quarterback coach to head coaching pipeline is definitely going pretty strong right now. All right. I think one last thing to wrap it up. This has been a great chat, Dusty. We really appreciate you joining us to give us your smartness. I just want to talk with all of us about just kind of how fun this Packers team has been to watch. It has kind of just been the theme of this chat here so far. I've seen, like, I can't remember who it was on Twitter yesterday. I think it was Michael Allen, who said, like, this is his favorite Packers team ever. And that's a crazy take to me. Like, I really like this team. If they win these next 3 games, then maybe I will agree with that take. But nonetheless, just watching this team grow and completely turn this season around. I mean, I was, as much as a day one Jordan Love supporter I was, or at least a supporter of the idea of Jordan Love, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any points of doubt throughout this season, and now they have turned around and are playing like one of the best teams in the NFL. They deserve to be in the divisional round of the playoffs with the way they are playing, and it's the most unique year, undoubtedly, in recent memory. Even like 2016, the run of the table run was exciting, but that was just mostly Aaron Rodgers putting a bad team on his back. I mean, yeah, that was a terrible team. I think they had like Christine Michael as their starting running back, and Aaron Rodgers led the team in touchdowns. Rodgers led the team in rushing touchdowns. So it's been a fun team to watch. It's Big B. I'm sure you have a lot of, basically a soliloquy you could give about this team here.
Oh yeah, I love this team. This team is just so much fun to watch. I've said this many times. I got my Jordan Love jersey in the mail yesterday. Like,
There we go.
I am such a Jordan Love fanboy right now, and I couldn't be happier. Yeah, I'm just so in love with this team. Everything about it.
Oh, that is Mark Murphy muting Big B right now. He finally got caught for filming during training camp, I guess.
He was just waiting for his moment.
Yes. Okay. Dusty, I'll let you wrap it up first. Talk about your excitement for this team, and then also where people can find all of your stuff.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've been saying like my favorite thing about this playoff run, the fact that they've made the playoffs at all is insane. That we get to spend more time with this team, especially with where they were in the middle of the season. The fact of when they finally rounded into form, when they finally became what we hoped they were going to become, we get more games with them. So no matter what happens this week with the Niners, the fact that we get 2 more games of this team, of Jordan Love doing his Jordan Love things, of Tucker Kraft turning into a monster, of Wicks and Reed and all of these guys like just coming into their own. It's amazing that we get to spend more time with this specific team. I absolutely love it. Big B is back. I will let Big B continue. Big B, continue.
We got about like
Okay,
145 left in the Zoom.
Yeah, I don't know where I got cut off at, but like I was saying, I got my Jordan Love jersey in the mail yesterday. I'm a massive Jordan Love fanboy. Haven't enjoyed watching a Green Bay Packers team this much since 2020. Just that entire Aaron Rodgers MVP run was just pure sensational. Like right now, it can't get much better than this, especially after the Dallas game. And I'm super excited to see what they do versus San Fran because I got a lot of hope.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I'm thrilled to get to watch them again one more week. Hopefully, listen, I'm getting irrational. Usually by this time of the week, I'm putting the dampers on. I think they're gonna lose. Like I'm all pessimistic. I'm full go, man. I'm fully expecting to win this weekend, so I'm very excited about it. Yeah, if you're looking for me, you can find me. Just find me on Twitter at DustyLee, and I will shout. I'm on Cheesehead TV. The thing I've done with Kuhn this year over Cheesehead's YouTube channel has been just an amazing amount of fun. I've learned so much from him. So everything I will shout about on Twitter, but that's where you can find me.
All right, awesome. Once again, thank you very much, Dusty, and hopefully we have another. Well, I guess no matter if they win or lose, we'll have another one of your film breakdowns with Kuhn. But hopefully it's some good tape you get to break down. Every time, I think that was only that might have been our first time we actually had Dusty on an actual episode. I know we had him on a game show we used to do. But I think that was the first time we had that long of a chat with him. So smart and just really appreciative to have the time from him. On to some more amateur chat about the Packers. Okay, now this is the time where we just go off of pure vibes, and it is our responsibility, I feel, to get you hyped and make you believe that the Packers not only can, but are going to win this game tomorrow afternoon. Okay, I will tell you, my confidence with each week since Chicago has just gone up. In fact, since I guess Minnesota, okay, I thought even with Jaron Hall starting for the Minnesota Vikings in Week 17, all of the injuries that Minnesota encountered, I was like, they're going to get smacked against Minnesota and they're going to be eliminated from the playoffs with that. But they just keep on defying my expectations. My hopes for them beating the Vikings was about 5%. My hopes for them beating the Bears was not much more. My hope for the Cowboys was 15. And now I feel 30% confident that the Packers are going to win this game, Big B.
Whoa.
Big numbers there. Okay.
Crazy.
Now there is no like scientifical reason for my confidence in this one, but I'm just really excited. I have a lot of hope in this Packers team, and if they lose, I hate this idea of false money or house money, but I like no matter what, this has been a crazy successful season for all the reasons that we talked about with Dusty. So I'm very excited for this game, and I do think it will be a good matchup. Nobody seems to be really giving the Packers credit. Immediately, I mean, in the second half of that game when it was clear the Packers were going to win, even then, people were ready to, save the Cowboys' butts or, make excuses for the Packers winning this game. It's like, oh, no, the Packers just got lucky by playing Dallas. Dallas isn't a worthy opponent. Are you kidding me? Those same people were saying earlier in the week that playing the Packers was better than a bye week for the Cowboys. Okay. So I don't want to hear any of that nonsense about the Packers having an easy opponent in the playoff version of the Dallas Cowboys. All right. That's ludicrous. This Packers team deserves credit. Now, they are 9.5-point underdogs, and I am fine with that. They were touchdown underdogs against Dallas. I thought that was a little bit crazy. 9.5 against San Francisco. Sure, yes. On paper, San Francisco should win this game pretty convincingly. Okay, they are far and away over the past 2 seasons, or really from the McCaffrey trade on, they have been the best offense in football over these past 2 years. And it's not even particularly close. They have so many offensive playmakers. We talked last week about, the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. They have Michael Gallup. They have Jake Ferguson, who did end up having a good day. They had Tony Pollard. And it's like the Packers are going to have their hands all over the place. Now we look at the 49ers. They have Christian McCaffrey, just an absolute unicorn, does it all. They have Brandon Ayuk. They have Deebo Samuel, 2 guys who are, Deebo is very versatile as well. And then also they are just so dynamic after the catch. So on paper, yeah, it doesn't even it shouldn't matter what the Packers offense will do, because their defense is probably not going to have enough to stop those guys enough or slow them down at all. So on paper, I'm fine with that 9.5-point underdog. However, some 49ers fans, I don't know where this rant is taking me, but some 49ers fans want to believe for some reason that everybody is down in San Fran. It's either that or they completely believe that this Packers team is not talented at all, and that the fact that they scored 27 unanswered points to start the game against Dallas means nothing. And they're not giving a lot of credit to Jordan Love. So I am motivated for this game. I have some anger for me in this game. And, I'm just feeling confident in this Packers team. I was wearing my a bunch of Packers stuff earlier today, walking on campus of Mizzou here, and this jabroni comes up to me and says, hey, Packers are losing. Like, Jesus, dude, come up with some better trash talk. And I looked him right in the eye, and I said, they're winning by 30. You mark that down, man. Big, can I hear your confidence percentage ranking in the Packers in this game?
Confidence, I am not even that nervous for this game. I was super nervous last week for the Cowboys game, but I'm not even that nervous. But my confidence ranking is probably at a 75%. All right. Versus the Cowboys last week, it was about a 91. So it went down from last week, but it's still over 50%. And free money, easy win. All right. That's all I'm gonna say here. That's all I'm gonna say here.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't, my confidence is 30, but I would not be shocked at all if the Packers win this game. The 49ers are a very good team. They absolutely deserve to have the number 1 seed, and I think they are my Super Bowl favorites. Okay, that's who I'd place money on. But they're certainly not unbeatable. They had a 3-game losing streak. Brock Purdy has been, not prone to turnovers, but he can throw you a few, and all of a sudden the 49ers are a bad spot. And I like the Packers' chances to go maybe not toe for toe with them. If this is a shootout, I don't know if I like the Packers' chances just because I, have more confidence in the 49ers defense getting one or two more stops than the Packers defense. But I'm really excited to kind of see this Packers team continue to kind of shock the world here. Let's see what else we had on the script. So, I did want to talk about, this Packers 49ers rivalry, which has, as much as, we talked last week about the rivalry between the Packers and the Cowboys in the playoffs, which has spanned since, the 1960s, or at least there was a brief episode in the 60s, and then the 1990s and 2010s was really a big thing too. But I mean, Packers 49ers has been a consistent thing since the Favre era, all throughout the Rodgers era, and now, as fate would have it, back again in the Jordan Love and Brock Purdy era. It does definitely feel like a fresh slate, a new era to this rivalry, though. The Packers, this Packers team, they don't know anything about the history with the 49ers, and I'm looking forward to that. The Packers are 1-4 in the last 5 matchups against the 49ers. So as much as kind of fans want to build up the recent history of this rivalry, it's like, man, players don't care. It's just another football game for them, which is pretty exciting, I have to say. Now, revisiting the most recent one in Packers playoffs versus 49ers, you look at that 2021 divisional game, of course, and both these teams are very different, especially the Packers from where they were at that point, of course. But I would say, the Packers' kryptonite in that game, the defense had a very good performance. Really, their kryptonite was special teams, but the offense couldn't get anything going. They only scored 10 points. And they basically really dominated the time of possession. I believe the defense got an interception or two in that one, but they just could not move the ball. And I looked at the box score for that game, and Devontae Adams was the only wide receiver to have more than one reception. And it reminded me of, in that game, it was just one of those games, and it became all too familiar of a story for Aaron Rodgers in his late career in big games where he just got keyed in on Devontae and didn't trust any other wide receivers, and they ruined it. Ruined the game. Jones had 9 receptions as well, but Devontae was the only wide receiver to have more than one, which is crazy. And you just look at the stark difference from that team and now with Jordan Love, especially. I mean, Jordan Love, there's no one receiver to key in on. Like, I guess Romeo Doubs would be the guy, but there's no guy that really I would think that Jordan has an exceptional amount of trust in over anybody else. So this Packers team is really exciting. Just a lot of different ways they can win, it seems. And they're going to have to pull out some rabbits out of their hats this week in order to beat the 49ers. So let's get into this preview of San Fran here, okay? So 12-5. Okay, go ahead.
That game really okay.
Oh boy.
I holded that in that entire thing, so I have to let it go out. That game really pisses me off still. I just want that game to never be talked about ever again in my presence or on my social media feed. That game can go straight into the garbage. And you want to know what? Jordan Love at that time could have hit Alan Lazard over the middle. He was wide open. I don't know. I'm just saying, Jordan Love at that moment in time.
Oh man.
Before all this year, all that, Jordan Love would have hit Alan Lazard over that middle. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't understand. I don't understand why Rodgers was so fixated on Devontae Adams in big games, especially that one. And when you have Alan Lazard clearly wide open over the middle, there's nobody like 20 yards like around him. He's looking like Romeo Doubs versus the Cowboys. I just don't understand. Like if Aaron Rodgers was playing in that Cowboys game, I'm sure he wouldn't have hit Romeo. I don't know. He has some vendetta against wide open receivers. Like I'm done.
Okay. That's being a little bit facetious, but
I'm mad. All right.
I mean,
I just
the point about Allen is
I'm
certainly
over it.
interesting. Now
Yeah.
here's what I will say about that game. What at least what we can take from that game to be applicable in this one, other than Jordan probably not keening on any receivers, is also just what it took for the 49ers to come in to the number one seed house after a week of rest for Green Bay, snowy Lambeau Field, all of the aura of the frozen tundra. And I mean that at least for that era of the Packers, like the frozen tundra aura was all bullcrap. Like they didn't play well in the cold. Now we haven't really gotten an opportunity to see this Packers team how they play in a game like that. But besides the point, like the 49ers needed some breaks. They got their breaks. They got the Packers to do some boneheaded stuff. The 49ers got lucky. I mean they probably played the better game, I guess you could say, but that was a really strong showing from Joe Barry's defense in that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, just look at all of the opportunities that the Packers gave them to win that one. Obviously, the blocked punt is the big one. We knew all season that a special teams volley was probably going to eventually cost the Packers in a big moment. You have let me check. I have it pulled up here.
Oh, how could I forget? Aaron Jones not run out of bounds before the half.
Right.
Like, oh my, I
Exactly.
totally forgot about that. Like, I love Aaron Jones, but that was one of the stupidest decisions I've ever watched in a football game in my life. All right.
It
That was
absolutely
terrible.
was.
Terrible.
Mercedes Lewis has his fumble early on, which completely deters any
Yeah.
momentum. It felt over after that Mercedes Lewis fumble. You
Oh,
know, I
100%.
remember this team. Jimmy Garoppolo. Let me see here. Actually, if they ended up having an interception, Jimmy Garoppolo had one interception. He was 11 for 19 for 131 yards, and a 57.1 rating. Their leading rusher was Elijah Mitchell, 17 carries for 53 yards. I mean, the Packers lost this game much more than the 49ers lost it, okay? Or won it. And so, I mean, that's really the path to victory in my mind for the Packers to win this game this year. I believe they're a good team, and I believe they can play better than the 49ers did on that day, but it just seems like they're going to have to get lucky breaks like that to beat this 49ers team. And, looking at it, there is a few things that are pointing to what could be a equalizer in this game, mainly the rain possibly playing a factor. I believe it's supposed to be like 70% chance it's raining tomorrow afternoon. And we've seen Brock Purdy struggle in rain games before, even though his hands are average size. This is the first week that I've looked up a grown man's hand size on the internet. Okay. Brock Purdy has 9.5-inch hands, fun fact. So that's like close to average. So I don't know what his deal is in the rain, but he has struggled in rain games before. So that's definitely a possible equalizer. Another part of the rain possibly playing a factor is maybe AJ Dillon. He's really before he got injured was playing pretty well for the Packers. And this could really be a game, cold weather. Well, not cold, but just rain, sleet, slick ball where it just becomes a running battle, battle in the trenches. Those other types of games you could see AJ Dillon play a big factor in. Now AJ Dillon is obviously questionable for this game, but would be really nice to have him in for this one. Also back to the 49ers and offense, we mentioned, just all the weapons they have offensively, defensively, obviously you got to look out. I mean, they're pretty stacked at every level. The one weak spot is the secondary though. They have two good starters at corner, and then after that it gets a little shaky. They have Ambry Thomas as their third cornerback, and their depth there is not great. He has something like a 96.6 passer rating when targeted. So with how many, I wouldn't say the Packers skill group, I'm not going to go as far as say they're as diverse and as deep as the 49ers is, but they have a lot of guys. Okay. I have just as much faith as I do in Jaden Reed, as I do in Dante Wicks, as I do in Bo Melton, as I do in Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. And so cornerback depth is definitely going to be something to watch, and just how the mismatches Jordan is going to be able to pick apart. Now, a big part of that obviously is that secondary might not matter if the 49ers are able to win in the trenches, win in the pass rush. Chase Young, Nick Bosa are two of the best pass rushers, if not the two best in the league right now, which is crazy that they're on the same team. And they could completely ruin the whole entire game plan for this Packers team. In the middle of the field, the 49ers linebacker group is really great. Fred Warner, is a very underrated player. I would consider him, having somewhat of a Hall of Fame career. Now Drake Greenlaw is questionable for this game. He's their other inside linebacker, but regardless of that, I mean, that's definitely something to watch. But Fred Warner can just, once again, ruin game plans for teams. He can keep up with wide receivers. Definitely can with tight ends. He's, just definitely great play detection, has insane speed. So he's definitely going to be a player watching that 49ers defense. But if Jordan Love has time to throw, he doesn't even need to have a perfectly clean pocket, as we've seen. He can do a bunch of stuff, just by improv. But he's got to have enough time to make a decision. Okay, can't have pressure in his lap the second ball is snapped. And, this Packers offensive line has looked really solid over these past few weeks. Zach Tom eliminated Micah Parsons from this past game against Dallas. He did have 6 pressures, but Zach was holding off for just long enough. Aaron Jones also had a few good blitz pickups. So all this to say, there is a way for the Packers to beat the 49ers. So, Big B, can you give your thoughts on this matchup and kind of the formula you would see to happen for the Packers to win on Saturday?
Yeah, like you said, like if the offensive line holds up, like I think there's a very good chance that the Packers offense is going to be just as efficient as it was versus the Cowboys. The second, like you said, and also like you said, like the secondary has some depth issues, and if the offensive line gives Jordan Love enough time, there will be probably some guy open. Like one receiver will probably get open.
Mhm.
And really, I just expect a lot of like outside stuff, outside runs, maybe a few screens thrown in there, a lot of quick passes, especially to open up the game, probably on the first drive. But a lot of running plays to the edge, and I think that's mainly what the offense should do. But then again, I'm not an offensive coach. I have no idea really what works versus the 49ers defense. I'm not some guy who watches film. So based on what I've heard is that's what a lot of the smarter people would attack this 49ers defense. And I think Aaron Nagler said this, I think yesterday on Packers Transplants. I think it was him, but he said pretty much the defense just a hope and a prayer at this point. Like you just gotta hope and pray to the good man above that the defense gets at least like a few stops. And hopefully that will be enough for the Packers to win. But that's mainly the defensive side of the ball. I think that pretty much just covers that side, just hope and a prayer and call it a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Packers defense, um, they are either going to win or lose this game for the Packers. They're not going to win by having like a suffocating performance. I would be shocked by that. If they can hold the 49ers to 13 points, and only what 7 of those or 6 of those offensively, like they did in 2021, I will be flabbergasted. I don't
Yes.
like, and that's not the expectation for them in this game. If that's the game plan for Matt LaFleur and the Packers, and they're a little bit delusional. But they are either going to win this by just getting a few stops at the right times, or they're going to lose it by collapsing in those moments. And also, I mean, if they're able to get just 1 or 2 turnovers, we talked about like just anything that can be an equalizer in this game. I mean, turnovers are the ultimate equalizer in football. So if they can just catch one or few of those that Purdy's going to throw to you, if you get pressure on Purdy, then he might throw you one that, and it's just going to be being in the right place at the right time to catch those, and then also just catching them. Simple as that.
Yes. Yeah, looking at you, Devondre. Got to catch the ball next time, buddy. All right.
Of course. And then looking at this matchup of the Packers offense versus 49ers defense, I mean, we talked about it quite a bit of the Packers offense with Dusty, but 49ers defense specifically, they're 26 in rush defense. But the big thing with them is that, like, they're, part of the reason of that 26th ranking is, I mean, one, they've been without their defensive end Eric Armstead for the month of December, so that's played a factor in it. And then also, they were just able to get out to such big leads early on that they are daring teams to run on them. So that's definitely notable. But, definitely something to clean on to. It's going to have to be another big Aaron Jones day. And this has been one of the best stretches of his career, both statistically and then just also as a playmaker and what he's done for this Packers offense. So I'm excited for this matchup. Let's go over the injury reports, and then we'll talk about our superlatives for the week. So Jerry Alexander with his ankle, Daniel Whelan with an illness, AJ Dillon with the neck, and Isaiah McDuffie also with a neck injury are all questionable. And then the only one that is out is JJ Enigbari, and JJ likely towards ACL. That is reporting from Ian Rappaport. He is just not confirmed by the team yet, and he has not been placed on IR. Only guy on the injury report, or only two guys on the injury report for San Fran. It's Dre Greenlaw, like I mentioned, the inside backer is questionable, and then Cleveland Farrell, defensive end, is out for them. So they're looking pretty healthy. All right, on to our key to the game, our biggest concern, and our who is going off player of the week. All right, first off, the key to the game for me is setting the tone early on both sides of the ball. All right, this was so huge for the Packers in Dallas. I mean, you obviously on the first offense drive for Green Bay, they take the coin toss they receive, and they make it look absolutely easy. Aaron Jones runs all over the Dallas defense, and they score, a 7-minute drive, and they score a touchdown on the Cowboys. And the next one, I believe, it was the very first defensive drive where Jair Alexander gets the interception at the 10. And just like that, I mean, Packers are up 14 in the blink of an eye, and just set the tone for the entire game there. Got to do that against San Fran. You do not want to be playing this team from behind. Like I mentioned about the 49ers run defense, they are daring teams to beat them by running because they're able to get out to big leads early on. You do not want to have that happen. You also don't want to get behind the sticks. So really, just key to it is staying one step ahead, or at least right on track with the 49ers early on in this game. And then after that, just whatever happens in the second half, make your plays at the right time. Big B, what do you got for the key to the game here?
And my key to the game is, steal some possessions, because I think that's the only way you're going to win this game is if you steal some possessions, either by getting turnovers on defense, maybe go and having a little like onside kick, fake punt, something to steal at least a few possessions in this game. I think that will definitely go a long way to winning this game. And, hopefully maybe we'll get a little creative on the special team side, and hopefully, I hope and pray we get a few turnovers because, we need that. I need that in my life.
Man, can you imagine if the Packers get a blocked punt that they return for a touchdown? That would be the ultimate exercising of demons right there.
Yeah. that would just, just give me that.
Yes,
give me that.
Absolutely. Yes, good points there. On to our biggest concern. We both have just players that we have picked out. For me, it's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he can kill you. He can ruin the game. He could win this game for the 49ers in the first quarter. He is just such a dynamic playmaker, and he opens everything up for the 49ers offense. Every player on the 49ers offense is better because Christian McCaffrey is on the offense with them. So I'm concerned about him. Packers have not played a running back like him all this year. So yeah, Big B, what do you got?
Yeah, I got, like you said, I got a player also, and I'm gonna go with George Kittle here. Last week versus the Cowboys, the only player that actually dominated us was Jake Ferguson, Wisconsin alumni. Jake Ferguson had like 90 something yards, 3 touchdowns. Like my boy went off. I would be mad, but of course, Wisconsin alumni, so I can't be that upset. But George Kittle could very easily kill this Packers team, especially like on third down and stuff. I know. I'm assuming he's a big third down target for Brock Purdy, at least. He would be, at least for me. But yeah, Packers have trouble all year against tight ends, and it's been a pretty much a theme in the Joe Barry era on this defensive side is the tight ends giving this defense some troubles. So I'm definitely looking out for him. And also, I'm going to say this little fun fact. I did not know this, but George Kittle was born in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know. That blew my mind yesterday when I discovered it. So I just want to, tell the peeps, as many people as possible, because I think that's pretty cool.
Good to know. Yeah. What you mentioned about him though, like as far as struggling against tight ends is definitely a big thing. I mean, Mark Andrews killed the Packers in their win against the Ravens. Was that last year? No, it was
That
no, it had to
was
be 2 years.
2021.
It was 2 years ago. Okay, so that point's kind of invalid because they didn't have Quay Walker at the time. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen tight ends walk right over this defense before. And there was a good article on The Athletic today, just breaking down really how much not only that McCaffrey opens up for the Niners offense, but then what that allows George Kittle to do because the pack teams have to switch formations to play the run, and that opens up everything for a lot of players, but especially George Kittle over the middle of the field. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be something to watch. What you mentioned on third downs too is definitely going to be critical because I can definitely see, um, you know, Packers playing their typical off coverage on third down and George Kittle just taking those easy receptions all day. Finally, our guys who are going off. I picked out two divisional rounds. I went with two. Okay, I got Rashawn Gary and Jaden Reed. Rashawn had 2 sacks against the Niners in 2021, and I feel like he's had a good season this year coming off that ACL. But I think this is the game where he announces himself as a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL, and I think he's going to terrorize Brock Purdy all day. Now, I also on offense, I have Jaden Reed going off. I mean, I don't think he had a single reception in this Dallas game, if I'm correct.
He did not.
Didn't have a single reception. He had a great quote yesterday in the locker room about not caring about that he just wants to do, and really the whole wide receiver group just wants to do whatever it takes to help this team win the game, whether that's through run blocking, or just being a decoy or distraction. We saw that many times against the Cowboys. So I feel like, though, this is where Jaden Reed gets his time to shine. He had that Franklin helmet on yesterday in the locker room. This is a Jaden Reed legacy game coming up. Book it. Big B, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going a whole different route here. I think this is the first time an offensive lineman has ever been picked when we did this all season. I'm going to go with Zach Tom here, baby. My offensive line brother, Zach Tom, he dominated last week versus Micah Parsons. He has been an absolute wall all season. He has been incredible all year. Shout out to Zach Tom. He has a tall task going up against either Nick Bosa, Chase Young. They got the Avengers on both sides of the ball. So whoever will go up against Zach Tom, I am sure they will get shut down. And since you did two, I'm gonna think of one right now. I'm going to go with on the defensive side of the ball. Carrington Valentine will go off also. He will get a pick 6 in this game. Book it.
Oh,
Put your bets on
man.
it. Let's go, baby.
It just feels like one of those, not obscure players, but one of those players that you wouldn't expect to have a big moment for the Packers. I mean, last week it was Darnell Savage. He's had a decent season, but if you asked me before the game who I'd expect to have a pick 6, it would not be Darnell Savage. So if you definitely, it would be awesome if we get another one of those moments, like a Carrington Valentine interception this week. Oh, buddy, we'd be going nuts.
I think I would run through my wall if that happens.
So, anticipation for this game, it's absolutely killing me, man. But I cannot wait. Already tomorrow night, hopefully like we mentioned with Dusty, every opportunity that we get to talk about this Packers team is, just a blessing. That's being a little bit dramatic, but it really, really is special, this Packers team. And let's get that win tomorrow, baby. We'll be here to recap it afterwards. Big B, any closing thoughts here?
Yes, like I said previously, or I think last week, we made it this far already. Why stop now? Jordan Love, bring us home, baby. Let's go.
Absolutely. We really appreciate all of the support you guys have shown us throughout this season. And hopefully we're back next week with another preview episode. So we will talk to you then. As always, go pack, freaking frack and go.